and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down the divisional round of the NFL playoffs with 4 prime games that Brian and I were starting to discuss a little bit, but we wanted to save all those nuggets for you. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Kyle? Man, I am freaking excited for this divisional round of the playoffs. Like you said, we were talking pre-recording here, and these games are freaking awesome. Like, we couldn't have asked for a better playoffs to go along with what the regular season presented to us.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We have 4 compelling games, really good teams. A lot of fun can come out of this weekend. Depending on who you're rooting for, you could also be very, very miserable after this weekend. But there's a lot, and let's just jump into it. And we'll start on Saturday with the game. This is my game. This is my team. I have a futures on the Titans. I have a futures on Titans versus Niners in the Super Bowl. I root for this team. So you can take everything and anything I say with a grain of salt. Follow me, fade me. I really don't care. But I do try to be. I try to be as transparent and realistic, and ultimately I want to win bets. So I'm not going to bet on my team even if I don't think they're going to win. That being said, Brian, we are looking at, I'm pulling up the active line. The Titans 3.5 across the board, and actually there's a 4 hanging out there. But for the most part, it's 3.5. It's I'm actually mad at myself because this line opened at 3 on the book that I use. It went to 3 minus 105, and I thought, perfect. We're going to get to 2.5.
Yep.
I'm going to hammer the Titans. And before I could do anything, it was up to 3.5, and we haven't seen that 3 number at all. So as of now, I've yet to play it. But before I dive into it, like where's your head at for this game? What are your expectations, and kind of what are you hearing from other people? Because I'm always interested. Not that I'm going to make a bet or not make a bet based on what everybody else thinks, but it is interesting because, like, depending on what bubble you're in, you could get one vibe or another.
Yeah, it's interesting because I hit on this before the games last weekend where I had said that to me the Bengals were kind of that darling of like the public's eye coming into the playoffs. And yes, the Raiders were getting the majority of the money early in the week in that game, but I mean, you just kind of knew that Cincinnati's pizzazz is what attracts people to the betting window. And I did find it interesting that this line actually increased at the beginning of the week. And I think that has a lot to do with Derrick Henry. So I'm really intrigued as to how this line will move as we get closer to kickoff. But I mean, when you look at these teams, like most NFL pundits will tell you, like Tennessee is one of the best teams in the NFL this year, and they proved it when they were healthy.
I feel like yes. I feel like there is some people that talk about when they are peaking, when they're at their best, how good they are. But it really feels like, especially with the Bengal, or especially with Kansas City and the Buffalo, which we'll obviously talk about in here in a little bit. But like we're so far in the back burner, and people are like, who could be sneaky? The Bengals. The Bengals could be sneaky. I'm not hearing a lot of Tennessee love.
I think it's just on the down low right now because you have to look at these two teams from outside of like the recency of their performances.
Yeah.
The Titans have a top 5 defense. They're getting King Henry back, which is quite possibly the most effective and influential running back in the NFL as what he does for this offense. And they've been operating just fine without him. Now, if he's anywhere near what he was, like, you're adding another element to what this Titans team is able to do in terms of controlling the clock now against the Bengals team, who is better against the pass than they are the run.
Right. So from a defensive perspective, the Titans are the only team in the league this year with 3 guys who have 8 or more sacks. So that's a good thing, especially against, obviously, the one concern about the Bengals
Yep.
is that offensive line, and that is a mess. Now, if they're able to protect, and they did a really good job against the Raiders a week ago, keep clean pockets for Joe Burrow, things could get ugly for the Titans, who biggest struggle secondary. A healthy Christian Fulton definitely helps. The bye week, I think, has been, if the Titans had to play last week, I don't know that I would be as confident as I am now. 'Cause especially, and then as we flip over and talk offense, not only is the King back, and I'm representing, but we have a healthy Roger Saffold, a healthy Taylor Lewan. Like, the offensive line is in the best position it's been all year long, and we have a full complement of weapons for
Yep.
Ryan Tannehill, who Ryan Tannehill had just 10.9% of his dropbacks this season came with AJ Brown, Julio Jones, and Derrick Henry on the field. 10% the whole year. When all three of those guys were out there, he averaged 9.4 yards per attempt. Without all three of them, it goes down to 5.2. Without AJ and Julio, it's 5.5. And with AJ and Julio, no King Henry, it's 8.2. So having two stud receivers, even with what Julio currently is still massive. And
Oh yeah.
and not even, like, obviously, in terms of like what Foreman's been able to do in the meantime has been great. And the yardage per game and what they kind of do hasn't really fallen off a lot. But the Titans are going to see so many more 7 and 8 man boxes, so much more one-on-one coverage for AJ Brown,
Yep.
for Julio Jones, for the Ferk Daddy across the middle. That, like, it's really coming together at the perfect time, and I'm very excited for this game.
Yeah, I think that's why for me, as soon as I saw this matchup, I had a clear lean towards Tennessee. I like them coming into the playoffs because I love what they do on both sides of the ball. They get to the quarterback, which, yes, against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that sometimes can be a little bit dangerous if he's throwing those jump balls. But when you're not giving the opposing QB any time to throw, he's going to make mistakes. And this Titans offense is also going to control the clock here. Now that King Henry's back, no offense to Donta Foreman, who I had loved a few years ago. Um, King Henry is another level of monster in
Yeah.
this backfield. And now, like you said, teams are going to have to commit a little bit more into the box, which is leaving those one-on-one opportunities for even an aging Julio who can take his guy one-on-one and win those 1v1 matchups. And then you have AJ Brown, who, much like Julio, he catches the ball in space and he's going to break a tackle. Tennessee to me is extremely dangerous, and somebody that, and a team that I feel like people are kind of discounting too much
Yeah.
as we approach the divisional round.
Yeah, I think if you look at what they are and, like, what they can be at peak, and you have to look, it's just they've been such a mess, and they've had so many different iterations of the team that it's hard to, like, everybody has that, like, Jets game and that Texans game in their mind, or even like the Patriots game, that they think that's the version we're getting, and it's just simply not. Like, they're
No.
in such a better spot.
And you have to take into account like the magnitude of the game as well. Like those are regular season games against bad opponents that a lot of times even the best teams sometimes play down to their opponent.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because, yes, Joe Burrow did get his first playoff start last week, so that's always a good sign. But your first road start in the playoffs is also a huge hurdle for a lot of teams to go. And a
Yeah.
lot of young quarterbacks making their first start on the road tend to do really, really poorly. So that's another thing, I think, another feather. Like, I started the week trying not to get myself too excited, and I'm getting myself way too excited, way too confident. So I'm ready to be smacked in the face. But let's give the people some picks and some thoughts on this game, Brian, because I don't know that I'm betting the 3 or the 3.5. Obviously, as I mentioned, it dropped at 3. I didn't bet it. It got to 3.5. I haven't pulled the trigger. I think if I'm betting this game, I'm looking at Titans alternate lines. I'm looking at -6.5, and I'm looking at -9.5. I think both of those are very much in play. If they are able to, we saw what Josh Jacobs did against this run funnel defense. We've seen what other running backs have done against this defense. If they get everything going, it's clicking, and that defense is going, they could win by double digits. Now, if you want to hedge your bet a little bit and not lose, all of your money, or just try and get your money back, I also don't hate a play on the Bengals money line. Like, I think this is a world where either the Titans win, and it's not, I wouldn't say comfortably, but like, around a touchdown or more. And then if they lose and it's close late and Ryan Tannehill has to make a play, and like I could see that him throwing a pick or something weird happen, or Jamar Chase, breaking one and going in for the touchdown, and the Bengals winning a close one. So I think if I was betting this game, that's how I would attack it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, and I actually just re-added it to my card after listening to you talk about it. Like, F it, I'm gonna go for it. But I love taking the Titans on the alternate line -6.5
Yeah.
because I do think this is a spot where it's either the Bengals are in this late and they come away with a miraculous win on the road in Tennessee, which is why if I'm betting the Bengals, I'm just betting them on the straight money line this week. And Tennessee, I feel like of all the teams, they have a really good shot here to absolutely crush this game with what they like to do. We talked about this already. They on offense, they're going to control the clock, which is going to put Cincinnati. If Tennessee gets out to a lead, it puts Cincinnati into a one-dimensional type play. And with how much pressure the Titans can get on the offense, with how bad the Bengals' offensive line is, we're looking at the potential for a few turnovers, maybe a pick six, maybe a sack fumble, and this could get out of hand late with
Yeah.
Cincinnati trying to come back. So I like going the alternate line route with Tennessee. You're getting a little bit better juice right now at DK plus 130 at -6.5.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot more than the current line of -3.5. And then the other area that I really like, we might be simpatico on here. That's the game total under. I feel like Tennessee really doesn't want to get into the shootouts, although I do think they can compete there with a
Yeah.
fully loaded roster. But they are built to, like I said, control the clock, keep the opposing team's offense off the field, and run away with it by pounding the hell with Derrick Henry.
Yep. 47.5 is your total for this game. I like the under as well.
Under, baby.
I think both teams will want to run the ball and not make mistakes. Um,
Yes.
I think the worst thing for the Titans is Joe Burrow coming out four wide and the Bengals throwing it all over the yard. But I don't trust their coaching staff to do that. I feel like we're going to get a good dose of Joe Mixon here. Now, that being said, if you really like the Bengals, you think they're going to win this game, you're hitting Bengals money line. I think the over is the way to go, because I think if that in that world, the Bengals are getting to 27 or to 31, and the Titans will do enough to get you there. But I could see both these teams really running the ball, really being conservative, doing a few play action shots, being a little more comfortable taking 3 instead of 7.
Yeah.
Especially the Bengals. Evan McPherson's been great all year long. So, if the Bengals can add points, I think they're going to do that. But, those 3s instead of 7s really works out for the under, especially if they're running the ball, they're being conservative. Now, like you mentioned, the Titans can create plays. The Ryan Tannehill pick is definitely in play. So that could cost it along with special teams. But I think this game stays under. I think it's kind of a 17-21 kind of game, and 21-10, that kind of thing. And the Titans win comfortably. So that is where my head is at for this game.
Oh yeah, me too. And if you also think the Titans are going to win this game, I'd be going right now to any of the sports books, whichever one's available to you, and snagging them on the futures line for the Super Bowl, because they're like more than double almost of what KC and Buffalo are. And they're possibly going to be only one of two teams to play for a chance to even get there in the AFC. So getting it close to 9-1 odds
Yeah.
on the Titans to get to the Super Bowl as the 1 seed right now is awesome.
Yeah, they're plus 850, and they're being priced in like they have to face both Kansas City and Buffalo, and they really
Exactly.
don't. And I was actually looking at it. I was doing some mental math, kind of predicting what it would be. And if you did just money line bets each way,
Mhm.
you would be about 8 to 1. So you get a little bit better of a price. But if you'd rather go that way, bet the money line against the Bengals, you're obviously negative. And then they'll be dogs to Kansas City or Buffalo, probably about 4 points, I would guess. Even though they'll be hosting, maybe not quite that much, maybe 3, maybe 2.5. I don't know. But I think it's like plus 150, 130 on the money line. So like by the time you're adding that up, you're about 8-1 like on a parlay. So I think the plus 850 is definitely the move. And then I
You can
think
even
they would be dogs to whoever they face in the Super Bowl, right? Like unless
yeah,
like maybe the Rams, they wouldn't be favorites, but I think the Packers for sure, the Bucks for sure, and then the Niners and Rams are kind of
I don't know about the Bucks, man, because of I mean, we'll talk about them in a minute, but
yeah
like they're pretty beat up. I wanted to
yeah
hit on the Titans real quick with another one. To win the AFC, they're still plus 310 at
yeah
DK. So that's good value too, like you said. Taking them against the spread this week or on the money line, and then even next week if they're a dog, I mean, they're not going to be plus 200
yeah.
versus
And I
Buffalo
think
or
they
KC.
were like 4-1. Either week 18 or right before wild card weekend. So that I mean that line hasn't dropped that much, which
Yeah,
is
exactly. So it's
not
still good value.
yeah, tremendous value. That's a great call on your part. All right, let's go to Niners Packers, and we'll talk about another game that I'm very excited about. Uh, I'm here in Northern California. I have a lot of family that are huge Niner fans. I'm a Niner fan by association or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Niners were good to me, Brian. I'm sorry about your Cowboys, but
Hey,
Mike
hey,
McCarthy is a really bad coach. The Niners really wanted to give that game away, and Dallas would not take it, and they basically took a really extended knee in the last play of the drive, and
mm,
the clock ran out. And as somebody who bet the Niners again when it was plus money, and bet the money line, I was very very happy after that game. Now we go to Lambeau Field, where the Niners are 5.5 point underdogs against the Packers coming off the bye. There's a lot to get into with this one as well. But I guess off the rip, where's your head at? What are your expectations for this one?
I, I- I'm not jumping off the Niners bandwagon yet. We talked about it last week going into that game against my Cowboys. I actually thought the Niners had probably a better chance of winning that game than my Cowboys did, even as the home favorite. It's looking like Bosa is possibly going to play this week. Fred Warner is probably going to play this week. So the 49ers defense outside of their corners, which have been beat up all season, are going to be fully healthy. The offense is rolling right now. And when you really look at that Cowboys game, that game was really close to being the biggest blowout of the
Yeah, it
weekend,
should have been.
considering
The
just
Niners
just
should
in
have
terms
won
of
that by multiple
domination.
touchdowns.
Because if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't throw that interception, you're looking at a Cowboys offense that gets the ball past midfield once in the entire game. And so, like, taking into account what they did, you got to think that this line should probably be closer to 3. And, with the Packers having a full week off and a lot of these guys not playing for over 2 weeks, it'll be interesting to see how rusted they are against this really hungry 49ers team who's getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah, we'll see. The biggest concern for me if you're backing the Niners is where Jimmy's at. But I think if Jimmy is a little more hampered, that might be better for what the Niners want to do. If they can
True.
lean a little more on the run, Kyle Shanahan doesn't get so weird. Lots of Debo, lots of Eli Mitchell in this game. I think it makes sense. I did share with you that when Aaron Rodgers plays in games that are 32 degrees or colder. He's 31, 11, and 1 against the spread, 74%.
That's
That
crazy.
obviously factors in a lot of like non-playoff games, a lot of whatever against Detroit and Chicago, and so take that for what you will. Jimmy G has never played in a game 32 degrees or colder, but did play at Eastern Illinois. Was on the Patriots, so I don't know that like cold weather is going to absolutely like shatter him. I also have flashbacks of Colin Kaepernick running up and down the field on the Packers, and Trey Lance coming in and doing that to them would be hilarious to me.
I was just gonna say, I mentioned it earlier in the season. Like Trey Lance looks very similar just in body stature and his skill set
Yeah,
as Kaepernick. So it
no.
would be very fitting if he came in and did a similar
Well,
playoff performance here.
yeah, and it would be interesting too because in theory, all signs point to Jimmy starting this game. So the Packers are probably prepping for him, getting
Yeah.
ready for him, and all of a sudden it's Trey Lance season, and they have to completely flip everything they've been thinking about. That would be kind of interesting. I also want to pull up a little nugget. While I do that, I'll let you know that I have already hit this game 3 times. I bet it at 5. I went to 6. I got some 6, and
Nice.
I bet the money line. So I obviously you can see how I feel about this game. The 49ers, this is per Ian Hartitz on Twitter. 49ers are the only defense to allow less than 1 yard before contact per rush attempt on the season, including the playoffs. So basically that's their defense. So basically
That's
most
their
defense is allowing, the running back to get some
yeah.
momentum and get between the tackles, and the Niners are like, no, we're shutting that down. We're the
I was just gonna say that's definitely like a trophy in that defensive room for that front four, which is why the availability of Nick Bosa is so important to what the 49ers like outlook for this weekend is, because when you have him coming off the edge and you have those other guys down on the line of scrimmage, you can't just run at Bosa.
yeah.
And then when you do, or when you avoid him, you're running into a defensive line that is the best in the NFL at preventing yards before contact. And then you hit that second level with guys like Fred Warner, who are tackling machines,
Yep.
led by D'Amico Ryans on that defensive side of the ball. This is why the 49ers for me over the last few weeks of the season were one of the dark horses that I had been eyeing for Super Bowl futures. And entering these playoffs, they were huge. Their odds for them were like 21-1 before the playoffs started. Even before that, you could get them at way bigger.
I'm holding a 45-1 ticket on them right now. So
there you go.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like in terms of offensive line, defensive line, like they are peak. Like they're hitting their stride. The Niners defensive line are like a college team where they're bringing in rotations. Nick Bosa is so impactful. He can line up on the left. He can line up on the right. He can move inside. That they'll move him around, so you can't like just put your stud left tackle on him and shut him down for a whole game. So he is so critical to what they do. And even when they all put their focus on him, that opens up rush lanes for literally everyone else. And there's a party in the backfield. So I just think so much lines up well for the Niners, especially going into this cold weather game where they want to run the ball. They want to play good defense. That is a good recipe for winning in a cold weather. And I just think, if you think the Packers are going to win, that's fine. But we've also seen this team way too many times take their foot off the accelerator a little early, let teams hang around a little too much. And, I don't think the Niners lose 31-3. Like, I think I could see the Niners losing. And it could be very reminiscent to what we saw earlier in the year where Mason Crosby's lining up to kick the game winner. And it's 3 or 4 point win at the most. So 5.5, 6. I just like that's a gift. I'm all over it.
Yeah, when the number dropped at 5, I thought it was too big then. So yeah, jumping in there, and then like you said, you got it at 6. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
One of the other sides that I really like in this game is looking at the team totals, and that's the Packers currently set at 26.5. I'm smashing the under on the Packers team total. The 49ers have held 9 of their last 10 opponents under that.
Yeah.
I mean, this 49ers team, no joke, is potentially one of the best in the NFL and somebody who barely snuck into the playoffs, which is why the value, like, they're not looked at as one of the favorites. But if they had a few games go one way or the other, I mean, even that Packer game, you're looking at a potential team that could have gotten the 1 seed, and they would be the clear favorites with a path to the Super Bowl.
Yep. And, as Aaron Rodgers has been incredible, probably going to win the MVP. Devontae Adams is an absolute beast, but Matt LaFleur is their coach. And he, as someone who had him as the OC in Tennessee, who's watched him a lot in Green Bay, there's going to be a lot of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in this game. That all screams to me, and kind of along with what you're thinking, Brian, I like the under in the whole game. 47, 47.5 if you can get to FanDuel. BetMGM has it 46.5, so it's trending down that way anyways. But I could totally see this game with a lot more running. Obviously the cold weather leans to the under.
I do think it's interesting, though, like when people look at the 49ers, I feel like there's this like aura around them that their offense isn't very good. But when you look at the latter half of the year, they were one of the best offenses in football. I mean, they scored 23 or more in 4 of their last 5. And it was 9 of the last 11 games they scored that amount, and this team
Yeah.
has routinely been putting up over 350, close to 400 yards per game, and going up against the Packers defense, who, yeah, they're good. I mean, they're not great. Like, they
Yeah.
still have Kevin King, who sometimes gets completely lost in the defensive backfield,
Yeah.
So I
And I think
just
their
don't see
ability,
why the 49ers are such a big dog coming
yeah.
into this week.
Yeah, I don't either. It does not make sense to me.
No.
Maybe I'm a sucker falling for it after last week, but I just think they can run the ball so effectively. And even last week, where I thought, oh, they're not really running it that well, they were getting hit in the backfield a lot. They still got over 150 yards rushing, and having the Debo wrinkle, I think, is
Oh,
going to
that
be
is
huge. There's going to be, I think we're going to see a few more of him, and I think there's going to be a couple big plays from Kittle. I know he
I was
didn't get many targets against Dallas, but I think that was
Yep.
by design. I think they wanted to make sure he was blocking Micah Parsons
Yes.
and that defense and kind of only operating when he had to. Anything else before we move on to Sunday?
Yeah, no, I think we're right in line with this 49ers Packers game. We like the under for the game total, and we're both riding the 49ers to get to the NFC Championship game potentially.
Yeah, it's just too many points. There's too much built into Jimmy G maybe or maybe not playing,
Yeah.
defense, all that stuff. Let's head to Sunday, where we have two other amazing, interesting, probably as much as I love what Saturday brings. When you look at the favorites, this is where the favorites are coming from. We'll start on the NFC side, where the Tampa Bay Bucks host the LA Rams. This line is really interesting to me. I've made one other bet for the wild card or for the divisional round, and this is it. I took the Bucks at 3. I haven't bought into the Rams all year long. Maybe I'll regret that once the game starts, especially with the issues along the Bucks offensive line. Losing Tristan Wirfs, who's probably not going to play.
Ryan Jensen is
Ryan
looking
Jensen, who's
questionable.
going to try and play.
I mean, real quick, before we even go any further, if you're going into a game minus 2/5 of your starting offensive line against Aaron Donald and Von Miller, that is not a recipe
not a
for
recipe for
success.
success.
No.
But we are expecting a fully healthy Leonard Fournette for this game, though, right?
So he's been practicing, but I mean, last week he was still a surprise.
Yeah,
Not,
I think that was more of a we're playing Philly. We're almost double
yeah. I
digit
mean,
favorites. Why are we going to risk it when we have way more important games coming up? And obviously, they were able to, Gio Bernard their way to success, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. But yeah, I think if you're saying why not Tampa Bay, I think that offensive line and the injuries versus what the Rams can do defensively is absolutely within the range of outcomes. But I feel like we're buying low on Tampa and buying high on the Rams after an amazing performance. Monday night's the last thing we remember. Their defense looked absolutely incredible. The offense was okay. Cam Akers looked amazing for somebody who is coming
that's
off the injury he
incredible.
had.
Yeah.
Shouts to him. He looks incredible. But Cooper Kupp looked off in that game against Arizona, and it really didn't matter. And obviously on Tampa side, no Antonio Brown, no Chris Godwin, but they still have Gronk, they still have Evans, they still have Fournette. I see Brady doing too much well. I think their defense is still really solid. And Stafford loves to throw those picks, man. He is not afraid to throw to the other team. So I think this could be a good spot for Tampa Bay.
Man, I'll just preface this with I picked Tampa at the beginning of the year to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, so obviously I've got something riding on them, and they were my biggest investment to win the Super Bowl in our preseason Super Bowl picks.
Yep.
That said, man, I feel like I'm talking myself into the Rams getting the 3 here. When taking a deeper look into the Rams schedule, they lost 5 games this year, but those were all against teams who were in or are currently still in the playoffs. So this team is battle tested. They've only gotten better as the years gone along. I do worry about their safety situation with the potential of Eric Weddle having to play. But, if if there's ever a week or a situation that you can afford to be like that, that's against a Bucks team who is really, hurting at wide receiver. I know Tom Brady's still back there, but if they are missing those offensive linemen with a Rams defensive line that can get to the QB with just that front four, very similarly to San Francisco, this is tending to me like we're looking at a really close game with the potential of this coming down to a field goal. So I'm definitely leaning the Rams with the 3 right now.
Yeah, I will say like all these games are extremely compelling on their own. So don't bet unless you just want to throw
Yeah,
20
yeah,
bucks on
exactly.
it
If you're not
to
comfortable
have
with a
to
line,
have
just
to get to get a little bit of extra excitement. But if you don't feel strongly and you're like this game, like there's too much, like it's fine to completely pass on like a whole series of games. I just feel
exactly.
good about it. I think they'll be able to do enough with Scott Miller, with Tyler Johnson. Obviously, I think Gronk could have a massive, massive game here. We've seen what Kittle can do to this defense. And Tom Brady at home in the playoffs, 3 points or less, like it was hard for me to say no to that. Shall
I
we?
mean,
Shall
like
we?
like I said, man, I feel like the injuries to the offensive line are really skewing
Mhm.
me in the direction of the Rams. Now, if those
Yeah.
guys are active, then I probably definitely think Tampa Bay is able to withhold against them.
I also think it's interesting. It really seems like the juice is coming in on the Rams, but they haven't gone to 2.5 in a lot of spots. There are a couple books, including PointsBet, that have 2.5. So if you're Team Tampa like I am, might be a good way to if you have access to there to get yourself some nice value. But yeah, the offensive line versus the defensive line is going to be where the game's at. If they can patch it together, I know the Bucks swing tackle is kind of banged up too, so it's like it's not really a great sign. Like they don't have the depth to come in. But if check down Tommy can get
I was
Scott
just
Miller
gonna
and Tyler
say, yeah.
Johnson and Gio Bernard, and I could see them dinking and dunking their way to success and um, having a good game. So I'm taking those. I'm laying the short number. I'm gonna and I'll know quickly. And if it looks like it's like, oh, this is gonna be a problem, I'll just live bet the Rams, try and make my money back, and not worry about it. All right. Well, we talked appetizers. We talked stuff to get that palate going, but this is the game we all wanted. This is the game
Yes.
everybody was clamoring for. I will not. I can almost guarantee you I will not have a single dollar on this game. I will enjoy every second of it.
Uh,
It's the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Buffalo Bills. We need to talk about this. Opened, inside 3. It's remained inside 3. It's 1.5 in a lot of spots. I know Buffalo looked absolutely incredible, dismantling the Patriots, who, as I've said
but
throughout the
they
year,
were who we thought they were.
they are who we thought they were. Like they're just a fine team. They took
Exactly.
tremendous strides. They did what they were supposed to do. They demolished bad teams, including my Titans when they were at their low point. But like the Bills doing what they did is something that we all expected. I'm mad at myself for not betting on that game. I had too much Belichickian like juju in my brain that I couldn't
You
pull the
bought into
trigger,
the Crypt
and that
Keepers
was the
history.
easiest cash of the weekend. Um, that being said, the Chiefs have had their woes this season. They've been up and down, and even against Pittsburgh, where like a quarter and a half they've done
Oh,
nothing. TJ Watt scores, and then all of a sudden it clicks.
yep.
But like I just like the fact that this is inside 3 is mind-boggling to me. Um, so I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm lining up. I'm gonna take my medicine if I'm wrong. Um, but if I can get the Chiefs at under a field goal, I'm good at home in the playoffs. I'm going to line up. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to overthink it.
Yeah, I feel like too many people are buying into what Buffalo did last week against a team that they've faced twice this year. They face every year 2 games.
Yeah,
They clearly have a leg up on them. And taking into account what Buffalo did early in the regular season. But do we really think the Bills are going to win twice
I think the
against the?
Bills can win the Super Bowl. I think they're very good. I just don't think this.
Yeah.
I just like I won't line up and take those points. But like I can see the rationale for betting them. I
Oh
think Josh
yeah.
Allen is absolutely incredible. I think that offense is good. Like the defense can be good. But like the other thing is like we've seen it with both these teams really like just like patterns of like just average or like below average. Like what we don't know what's going on. Like I don't know if it's just boredom. I'm curious to see if this is like the fire starter under the Chiefs' butt that like, oh crap, here comes the Chiefs. They're right at the right time as
Well,
somebody
I
who
mean,
hopes to face them or the Bills next week. I'm not optimistic about round 2 with them.
right in line with that. The Chiefs have won 10 of their last 11 games. I mean,
Yeah.
that just goes to show you it doesn't matter how many points you're winning by. When you're winning in the regular season, it doesn't matter that you're covering the line or not covering the line. And now you're getting the Chiefs at home in the playoffs against a team they've already faced once this year as less than a 3-point favorite. And it's getting it even lower. It's like 1.5 at a few books right now. To me, this is if I'm when I'm betting this, I'm smashing the Chiefs against the line here. I love Buffalo. I picked the Bills last year to beat Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl. It's kind of interesting that I'm not picking them this year, as I think they've kind of progressed and matured a
Yeah.
little bit. But what this Kansas City team has been able to do with a banged up Tyreek Hill, a banged up Travis Kelce, a running game that's been a revolving door at who's the guy producing, like I just don't see how the Bills can beat Kansas City again
Yeah.
this year, especially when Patrick Mahomes looked like he did last week. And they are clearly getting those engines warmed up for another Super Bowl run.
And what we saw to Tyreek too from compared to the week prior looks like
Yeah.
such a healthier player.
Well,
And
that's the
maybe
thing. Like, you could tell that they were like throttling him and Kelsey down at the back end of the year, knowing they had already secured their playoff spot. To them, seeds really don't mean anything. Like, they've been to the Super Bowl 2 straight years. It's time now to win the Super Bowl, which means health.
Yeah. I do like not only the Chiefs, but I like the under here. And I know that's not going to be a popular
I,
play.
I was just gonna say, I feel like this weekend is another under weekend. Like, everyone is thinking, oh, these high-powered offenses, but this
Yeah.
defense comes to play the most.
So like I do my betting pros my contest over there. I'm taking the under on every single game. I
I
just
completely.
I think I'll probably lose one, maybe two, but I feel like at worst I'm pushing, and at best I'm hitting 3 or 4 of them.
Oh yeah,
I feel like they're all like this game sets up as like the Madden championship, and maybe it is 41-40 and it's an incredible game and the offenses are clicking and both of these quarterbacks are great, but we've seen lulls, we've seen periods of like uneasiness. I also think both quarterbacks, like I don't see like a massive pick six or fumble six. Like I mean, obviously the Chiefs have done it a
but of
couple
the
weeks, but like Josh Allen, I don't know, maybe not.
But of the two, like who is more likely to get sack fumbled? It's still Josh Allen. For as good
Yeah,
as he is, like with the way he holds the ball, with how long he likes to extend plays, if anybody's going to sack fumble, it's going to be Josh Allen. And with the Chiefs pass rush, with how much better it's gotten over the latter half of the year, which is probably a result of their past defense and their DBs playing a lot better. This is setting up for me to be a huge disappointment for Buffalo.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's dive into your teaser, Brian. We can hit some props. We'll recap our betting card, and we'll give you our best bet before we get out of here. What are you looking at for teaser legs? Because this is a great weekend for teaser. There's a lot of
There's a
really, really
lot.
good options.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I like unders on a lot of these games, so teasing those numbers up, giving yourself extra wiggle room, is never a bad thing. But where's your head going?
So yeah, sticking right in line with that right there. We talked about we both like that Cincinnati Tennessee game to be kind of slower paced with both teams leaning on the running game for, maybe a few big plays, but teasing this line up to around 53.5 and taking the under is just giving you that added cushion for a game that we're both expecting to kind of be slower paced, a little bit lower scoring. And then going to the 49ers, Kyle and I both told you we like them with the 5.5, 6, even depending on what book you can get them at. So teasing this up to over double digits, which is kind of that line you want to do, I think makes too much sense just to give you an added cushion. Then go in the opposite direction with that Rams Bucks game. I think this is a good spot to potentially middle this game total. I like the Rams and the Bucks to play this a little bit closer to about 48-49. So I'd be taking the under on the current listed total, but teasing this down to 42 and taking the over, I think is completely in play here, because I think this is a spot where we see a 24-21, 24-20 kind of game, and getting this like right in that middle line, you could make some serious dough on this game.
Yeah, and
The
I
last
think
one,
if you feel strongly about
mm,
Tampa or the Rams, like even like worst case scenario, it's like 31-13, and you still hit the over. Like even if one team kind of
yep.
dismantles the other one, so I like that call quite a bit.
Yeah, and then the last one is, like you said, how we both kind of think that this Bills Chiefs game won't be a repeat of Rams Chiefs from Monday Night Football a few years ago, and we like this to kind of sneak under, teasing this up even further to right around 60 and taking the under in this spot is the play for me. So my little 4-leg teaser, which is probably going to lose. Cincinnati at Tennessee, teasing this up to 53.5, taking the under, teasing the Niners up to 11.5, which is holy crap. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Teasing the Rams and Bucks down to 42, taking the over, and Bills at Chiefs, teasing that up to 59.5 or 60 and taking the under.
Yeah, I think in terms of sides, I don't really love teasing the Rams up because, like I said, I think the Bucks could win 31-13. The Chiefs and Bills, like I don't know that I really want to go there either. As tempting as 8.5 is, because it gets you through 3, it gets you through 7. That's a great way to do it if you feel like the Bills are a good side, but I definitely could see the Chiefs reminding everybody how dominant they can be. I do think taking as you know, I've talked about how I like the Titans minus 6.5, minus 9.5. But if you can get the Bengals up to 10.5 or 11, I think that makes a lot of sense. As a teaser leg, once again, getting through key numbers. But like the Titans, when they have won, there's been a lot of closer games. And like it could even be a game where, the Titans are up by 10 and Jamar Chase catches a late touchdown, or, T. Higgins catches a late touchdown, and then they're onside kicking, and then the Titans kneel down to kind of seal it out. And all of a sudden the Titans win by 3 or 4. And so you're getting there with the teaser as well. So that's another way to attack it.
Yeah, there's one more line I like this weekend because I like the Chiefs so much. I like them on their alternate line as well over at DK, teasing them up, or not teasing them, but taking their alternate line at 5.5. You're getting plus 155 on that for a team that can beat anybody in the NFL by a touchdown or more, even the Buffalo Bills. So getting that added juice with the Chiefs, I think, makes a lot more sense than diving in and taking the line as it currently sits.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. Let's dive into the prop pool. I know you have a few pulled up. I'm going through and finding some that I like as well. Why don't you tell the people what you're looking at from a prop side?
All right, just starting with Saturday, the first one I noticed was Joe Mixon. His rush yards total is sitting at around 60.5. He's only gone over that total once in the last 6 games, and he went under in 4 of the team's 6 losses that he actually played in this week. And considering I think Tennessee is going to win this game, although I do think the Bengals will still want to get the ball in Mixon's hands, I think it's going to be a little bit more Joe Burrow having to throw against this Titans pass defense. So I like Mixon under there. And then going to that other Saturday game, I like Aaron Jones to see 3.5 receptions. I like the over there. I mean, this dude has done that in the last 2 games. He's done it 8 times already this year. Like Kyle said, 49ers are one of the best, or they're the best in the NFL at preventing the running game. So I think that the Packers are going to have to utilize their backs out of the backfield a little bit more in the receiving game. And then George Kittle, like Kyle said too, we're right in line together here.
Scary.
I love George Kittle.
That never works out well.
Yeah, I love George Kittle to burst out here. He's going to be that X factor for the 49ers offense. And then Kyle Juszczyk, little sneaky play here. Dude has had like 2+ receptions in like 6 straight games or something. So getting his receptions total at 1.5 and taking the over, I think, is in play.
Yeah, I think receptions and yards for Juice is really.
I think Juszczyk is like 10.5 or 11 yards.
And a lot of it is like he's not a guy that throughout the season they target a ton, but in big games, in crucial moments, they rely on him, especially as a wrinkle. Like, oh, we're focused on Debo and Kittle, and all of a sudden Juice is sneaking out of the backfield and catching, swing pass and going for 13 yards, and you're hitting the over on the receptions and over on the yards.
Yeah, if people have paid attention to the 49ers formations they've been running, they're running this formation where they have Jeff Wilson as the H-back and Samuel and Kyle Juszczyk in the backfield with Garoppolo, which means way more opportunity for Juszczyk to produce in this offense.
I like a lot of what you said, Brian. You mentioned Aaron Jones on the receiving prop. I like that. And with that being said, I'm taking Aaron Jones under 49.5 rushing yards. I think that is very much in play. As we talked about, the Niners rush defense has been awesome. I think the Packers are going to have to get him involved in swing passes and doing a few unique things. And I think that is very much in play, along with A.J. Dillon under 40.5. I feel like I'll get at least one of those, hopefully both of those, call it a day. I'm going to go with the over Josh Allen rushing prop, 50.5 yards. I think he's going to be running to get some first downs. I think he can get a big chunk at one point or another, get you about 35, and then you just really need him to cobble together another 16 yards. Debo, over 40.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to be key to the running game. Eli Mitchell will get his work, but I think Debo could get 55, 60 yards, maybe a long end around, maybe a long couple plays, and you're kind of getting there. Ryan Tannehill, anytime touchdown. I get ready for the finger roll in the end zone. I think the Henry factor will actually help him.
Definitely.
Little zone read action. He's scrambling. He's in the end zone. And with that being with AJ Brown and Julio Jones back, over 19.5 yards for the Ferk Daddy. Anthony Ferkser, 20 yards or more receiving, I think is very much in play. And anytime touchdown on him could make some sense too. Especially with with all the other stuff going on. So I think both those are in play. I think CJ Uzomah touchdown is very much in play again. With the Titans really focusing on those receivers.
I had Patrick Mahomes this week is somebody I'm targeting a lot in the player prop pool. Getting Patrick Mahomes at an anytime touchdown at plus 350 makes too much sense here. He's scored a rush touchdown in every postseason that he's played, and he hasn't done it yet this year. So to me, it's bound to happen. So it's one of those things you bet until it hits. And then his completions are currently set at around 25.5. Dude has 26 or more completions in 3 straight games, and in 4 of his last 5. He completed 29 and 33 in the last 2 games against the Bills. I think Kansas City is really putting these games in Mahomes' hands, whether it's throwing to the running backs, throwing to Kelsey, throwing the Hill. This is going to be the Mahomes show.
Yep. I think both quarterbacks passing yardage and are both in play. If you think this is the true shootout, the Madden video game, that you think that a lot of people think it can be, those numbers are a little bit low. Now, if it ends up being a little more lopsided, maybe it doesn't come through. But, if one team is kind of crushing the other one, the other quarterback's probably going to get there on yards, even if they don't get there on points. So I like taking the over on both the quarterbacks, even though I don't love taking overs if I can do it, yet I do it all the time. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, Brian, let's dive into it. We have gone through our card. We have talked some teasers. We've talked some props. Let's recap our card for the fine folks. If you're still with us, appreciate you joining. Smash the thumbs up, hit the like. Let us know down in the comment your best bet for the divisional round. My card is as follows: the Niners plus 5.5. I had it at 6, but obviously that's moved. Titans minus 3.5. Titans minus 6.5. Titans minus 9.5. Bucks minus 3. Chiefs minus 1.5. The under on Bills Chiefs at 54.5. The under on Bucks Rams at 48.5. The under on Titans Bengals at 47.5. I have the Debo over rushing prop, the Josh Allen over rushing prop, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both under rushing props, the Ryan Tannehill anytime touchdown, and the Ferk Daddy over 19.5 receiving yards.
All right, my card is probably just as long as Kyle's here. It's Cincinnati at Tennessee. I also like the under here, under 47.5. I'm taking the Titans on the alternate line, minus 6.5. Taking the Packers team total under 26.5. I like the Rams to win the first quarter against the Bucks this week, which is one of my little crazy quarter bets I haven't done in a while.
Love it.
I like the Chiefs on the alternate line of minus 5.5. My four-leg teaser this week is continuing with that Bengals Titans under theme, teasing this up to 53.5, taking the under there, teasing the 49ers up to 11.5, teasing the Rams and the Bucks down to 42, taking the over, and teasing the Bills and Chiefs up to 59.5 and taking the under. My player props for the week: Joe Mixon under 60.5, Aaron Jones receptions total over, George Kittle, almost called him Kerry Kittle. George Kittle over receiving yards prop, Kyle Juszczyk over receptions. I like Van Jefferson to see a nice big long one this week. So his longest reception prop, I like the over there. And then Patrick Mahomes anytime touchdown and Mahomes over his completions total.
Yeah, a couple things on what you mentioned. I hope your Rams call comes to fruition because then I can live bet the Bucks, assuming I feel good about where they're at, and then get a better number. Also, the Packers will be without MVS. It looks like so Alan Lazard props could be in play, and Josiah Diawara could be also in play. But with that being said, Brian, we talked props, we talked our bets, we talked everything, but one thing and one thing only. What is your best bet for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs?
I'm sticking to it with the Chiefs here. I'm taking the current listed line of Chiefs -1.5 or -2. I think Kansas City gets back to the AFC Championship game, and they're playing the Titans to get into the Super Bowl.
Love it. Love to hear it. I like those picks. I will be going to the other side of the bracket where I will back the San Francisco 49ers plus the 5.5. As I mentioned, already got it at 5, got it at 6, got it at money line. I think their Niners are in a great spot. I think they're a team that are trending at the right time and going in the right direction. And I hope that when we're talking next week, I am 1 week away from cashing my nice bet on the Niners and Titans meeting in the Super Bowl. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Please enjoy the games. Bet what you want, but don't feel like you have to. Props are a great way to get involved if you don't want to bet sides or totals, because these numbers are pretty spot on. So take advantage where you can. Bet when you want to. We'll talk to you guys next time.